I almost hit end live stream instead of.
Well, go ahead and do it anyway. It'll be the shortest show.
Shortest show. To the show. Welcome everybody to Crossing the Streams, where we answer the universal question: what should I be binge watching next? We've got over 130 hours streaming on our YouTube channel. So check that out. It's like a million billion suggestions for you. We got more today. We got our special guest, Tim Beisiegel, and OGs,
howdy. Hey,
Phillips and Jeff. Let's kick off with the theme song. Tim, kick us off.
I always forget about this. Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend too much time watching too much TV or watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Yeah, it's literally right there. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Bob.
Yeah, you were on key, man. That was good. They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Sal, and Bob. And there's Marcy. They call it Crossing Streams.
Oh, and then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we cross the streams. We cross the streams.
We cross the streams. That's the way we do it. Here we cross those streams.
What's up, everybody?
You know, I've done the show enough. You think I would remember A, that I have a script on screen, and B, that I have to sing the song every time when I come on. Every time I'm like,
well done.
It used to be you had to sing the whole thing. Then we kind of changed it. We mixed it up a little bit. But yeah, no, you did great. You did great. You made it your own.
Most people come on and they're very pitchy. You were right on top.
Aww.
Most people are. All right, well, let's talk about what everyone's talking about real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's friend, Matthew Perry. We were at dinner and someone texted us. It hit me hard, but it hit my wife really hard. Friends is like her real comfort show. And it's like, it's That's weird. Right. Like, this is like a show we, like from when we were, first run, we were young. It's not like we watch something in reruns and those people are passing away. I mean, this was,
Yeah.
The thing is, I liked Matthew Perry in Friends. I love Matthew Perry in Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. It was only on for one season. It's like 20 something episodes, but it was written by Aaron Sorkin and it's an amazing show. And I absolutely loved that. I was crestfallen, you may say, when the show was canceled because I was so excited every week to have that show come on. It was one of those things that I absolutely made time for every week. So, yeah.
That was a great show. When Studio 60 and the Sunset Strip came out, which was basically about a behind the scenes of Saturday Night Live type show, at the very same time, 30 Rock came out.
Yeah.
And so 30 Rock was basically the same idea, except it was behind the scenes of a sitcom, a variety show type show, but more, 30, more, anyway. But it was funny. I think at the time everyone thought Studio 60 was going to be the one that was going to go to the distance, and 30 Rock was the one that ended up having the legs. But Studio 60 has the best scene, I think, ever that describes comedy. And there's a scene where I think it might be with Matthew Perry, where she says, "I don't understand." In Dress, it got a huge laugh. And then when I did it for real, no one laughed. And I believe it was Matthew Perry. He says, that's because in Dress, you asked for the salt. And when it was real, you asked for the laugh. And it was like one of those things where it was like the subtlety of comedy, how you, in the delivery of comedy and the intentions behind the words that you're saying. And it's worth like looking up that clip. I was trying to find it before we went up, but it's such a great clip that explains, I think, comedy really, really, really well.
Yeah, I'd never heard that. That's great. I never saw I've never seen a single episode of any of those shows, not Friends, not 30 Rock. And it's not because
Okay.
I'm a TV snob. I don't know what happened. I was raising kids, during Friends, and I just never saw it. And everything I ever heard about Matthew Perry was, alcoholic, drug addict, whatever. But then I've been reading stories about the guy, and I read one today. Did you read the John Stamos story? It's sort of
Go ahead.
It sort of typified what I've watched a couple interviews with him, and he sounds like a really great guy. He said, I don't want to be remembered for Friends. I want to be remembered for helping people, So that was great to hear. But John Stamos related a story yesterday about how he guested on Friends, and Matthew Perry was telling him, "Oh, when you come out, because the audience doesn't know who the special guest star is or whatever. When you come out, they're going to go crazy, just bask in it." And it was crickets, nothing. And Stamos said, after the scene, when I was walking back to my trailer, quitting show business in my head, he could hear Matthew Perry saying to the audience, "Hey, come on, give it up for John Stamos. Wasn't that great seeing him?" And he got the applause that he didn't get in the beginning. So, not knowing anything about the guy's acting chops or anything, that was a really cool thing to do, because that's a tough thing to do, to come out to fucking silence.
That's surprising that they would be quiet for John Stamos as well.
I guess it was nothing.
I really thought you were going with he hyped up John Stamos, but told the audience not to say anything.
Yeah, that would have been really funny.
Don't react. Don't react.
Yeah.
That would have been fun. But Matthew Perry was in I remember, you feel bad when you kind of look back, just kind of like the same way you kind of feel bad when you look back on some of those old Britney Spears interviews, and what was in your head at the time, not knowing what was really going on. But I mean, I remember that he must have been drinking and stuff, because he'd be fat and then he'd be thin, and there would talk about his addictions and stuff like that. But I don't think anyone ever really understood how bad it was until he wrote the book and came out, and taking 45 Vicodin a day, and the fact that he made it this far was.
The fact that he made it to 54 is impressive, with everything that he put his body through, and how bad addiction had a hold on him. It's impressive that he made it as far as he did. And I think it's also a testament to how strong addiction is to somebody, even when it's something that they're trying to, not give into. I mean, here's clearly a guy from the outside looking in. He had it all, right? There would be no reason to be addicted to anything or need that from the outside looking in. And it just shows how strong that really is. And so, yeah, rest in peace, Matthew Perry. That was a rough one for me.
What was the quote I read where he said, either in the book or a recent interview, he said, it was praying and saying, "I don't care what you do to me, God, just make me famous." And he said that's what he prayed. That's what he said in his prayer. "I don't care what you do to me." Man, that's kind of heartbreaking to think of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
He did some good stuff outside of Friends too. Whole 9 Yards, Fools Rush In.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot of TV shows as well. A lot of them were one seasons. He did The Odd Couple. He did a reboot of The Odd Couple.
Yeah. Yeah, he did another TV show that I also liked, where it was a cross between his character and I hate to say it, like he was pigeonholed in one type of character, but I don't think there was one type of character. I think it was just Matthew Perry, and that's who he was, and his type of delivery. But he did a show. It was about a stadium group of people who
wasn't Allison Janney in that?
Yeah, I believe so. Like, there was a hockey team there, but they also did events on the side and all this stuff. And it wasn't the greatest.
Happy something. It was
Happy Shoes or Happy Sun or something like that. I think it was. I don't even think it went a full season, but I thought it was entertaining because it was Matthew Perry.
Hey, Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Lee. Mr. Chacon.
All right, let's get into some stuff. So last week we talked about, with the Halloween episode, we talked about Friday the 13th, which actually doesn't even have Jason in it until the end. And then spoilers.
Yeah.
And then Nightmare on Elm Street and Get Out, which is recommended to watch over and over again. And today we're going to talk about Catfish, Suits, and the Mothman Prophecies. So let's kick things off with Mothman Prophecies. And Bob.
Okay, yeah, this is kind of a holdover. I think I was going to do this on the Halloween show, but anyway, the Mothman Prophecies, one of my favorite movies, one of the few movies that I've watched more than once. That's not, Willy Wonka or The Shawshank Redemption. I've seen this 3 or 4 times, and it's one of my favorites. It may be the only one that I really, really love that critics hated. Generally, if something is so, I think it got like 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, but this is a 20-year-old movie. I don't think Rotten Tomatoes was even around back then, but nobody liked it. Audience is only 55%. I think it was something like that. And that kind of shocked me because I love this movie. It is one of the scariest, most, most off-putting movies I've ever seen. And I think it's because it's kind of a cliche these days, but it relies way more on what you don't see than what you see. And to me, it's one of the best examples of that kind of filmmaking where there's no jump scare. There might be one jump scare, but and by the way, I watched it on the heels of Halloween Ends. My God, what a piece of shit! What an awful piece of garbage. Nothing about that movie was worth watching. But anyway, so Mothman looked really great in contrast, but it's a great movie. And here's the premise: it tells it was a 1975 book which was written by a reporter, and it was about events that happened in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, about a large sort of man-like flying creature that was terrorizing the residents of this little West Virginia town. And it's, this is way before any kind of mass dissemination of news besides, television. There's no TikTok, there's no nothing, there's no Twitter to get the story going. But this story rapidly popped up and then had a life of its own for over a year in this section of the country. And it was about that guy, this flying creature, didn't kill anybody, left a couple people injured by having to run from it or whatever, glowing red eyes, huge wingspan, because it was about the size of a large man. But the movie, it updates it. It takes place in present day or did 2002. And it concerns Richard Gere, who is this reporter. And his wife, Deborah Messing, dies of glioblastoma after getting into a car accident after seeing this very thing, the vision of this in Washington. Richard Gere is heartbroken, crestfallen. The movie picks up a couple of years later, where he is inexplicably drawn to go check out some, paranormal thing that's happening somewhere, and finds himself in this town, has no recollection of how he got there, doesn't have any idea at all what happened to him, but he's there. And one of my favorite character actors, Will Patton, we all love Will. He plays a townie who has been traumatized by this Mothman. And Richard Gere's car breaks down, and he goes to Will Patton's house to see if he can help him. Well, Will Patton immediately starts yelling at him, going, "Get off my porch. Don't you ever come to my house again. I'm sick of seeing you up here. I don't have any blah, blah, blah." Richard Gere's like, "Dude, I've never been here. My car's broken." He goes, like something like, "You always say that." Well, so right then, something's going on, right? But I don't want to give too many details of the movie, but I do want to say that the creepiness of this is sort of, it's under this. I've never seen this anywhere in any other movie where this thing makes its presence known in very different ways. Sometimes it's the large thing and it's appearing to people. Sometimes with Richard Gere, it's just a voice on the other end of a telephone calling him in his motel room, introducing himself as this entity named Indrid Cold. I mean, that the whole name is off-putting, Indrid Cold, right? And for my money, the scariest scene in any horror movie occurs in that motel room on that phone call with this guy named Indrid Cold. I don't want to tell anybody what that is because you need to experience it yourself. But it is the weirdest product placement ever. That's all I can tell you. After you see that scene, you'll never look at this product again. So he's there in West Virginia, sort of not of his own accord. But while he's there, events are happening in other parts of the country and the world. And Laura Linney, who is the town cop, they experience these kinds of premonitions and feelings in their head about, these tragedies that are happening, and they gradually begin to realize that they're connected somehow to each other and to the story. And Richard Gere is hanging around this town because he thinks he's going to get some answers to his wife's death. He thinks that he might be able to speak to her through all this. But the whole thing leads up to a tragedy within the town that actually happened, that actually brought about the writing of the book. And it's a collapse of a bridge. It's not a big deal to say what that is. And dozens of people die. Well, it's the things that lead up to that, the little pieces of information that are dropped into Richard Gere's brain and to Laura Linney's brain by this, either the Mothman or Indrid Cold. And the way this all plays out is so eerie and so beautifully paced that you're like, oh my God, I can't stand this anymore. This has got to end, but you don't want it to end. And when the movie finally does end, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, I guess I don't know what I was expecting. It doesn't end like a Marvel movie. You walk away from it going, well, I guess that's the only way it could end, because everything leading up to that, stylistically, with the script, with the acting, with the mood, the lighting, everything, it had to be that way. So I can't recommend it enough. Jerry Chacon, he seemed to like that movie too. So that's it. That's the Mothman Prophecies.
That's awesome. Fred says hi, by the way.
Hey, Frederick.
Apparently, thank you, Fred. Jason said, what's up, Jason?
Jason. I think this is one of those movies that it's like been on my to watch list for like forever, and I've never taken it off it. And I keep circling back to it because it's got and I was looking it up again while you were talking. The cast on this movie is great. It's got a bunch of really good character actors, people who you may not know by name, but when you see them, you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I saw him in this thing and that thing, and it's got just a really good cast. Yeah, and Will Patton being one of those guys who's just he's in everything. He's such a good actor. So yeah.
So I know you didn't want to say how it ends, but if I guess correctly, will you tell me? Somebody turns on a light and he flies right into it.
Like I said, that's the only way it could end. That's great.
The only way this is going
down. Don't go towards the light.
That was a great joke. No, that's not how it ends. But yeah, I could watch it again just to see I don't normally get into like, oh, why did the director make that choice there? I just let it flow over me, and I either like it or I don't, and I usually realize why. Killers of the Flower Moon, I saw that. I know why I like Scorsese movies. I mean, they're all the same movie, in my head. That's not a negative. They're all the way he rolls out the story with, characters and minor characters coming in with really huge bits of information, and then they exit and you're like, "Oh, what the fuck just happened there?" So I don't know where I was going with that, but it's well worth your time.
Awesome. Well, thank you. All right. Up next, Catfish.
Oh, great. I got to follow up that awesome description with them. All right. So, yeah, I want to talk about Catfish because this is a show that I originally got involved with it because back in 2010, the host of the TV show, his name is Neve Schulman. Neve was himself was catfished. And so he made a documentary about his experience and finding out who his catfish was and what was, because he started unraveling some of the story and he got an email from one of the catfish's supposedly little sister, and she did like some art for him, and then she introduced him to her older sister whose name was Megan, and he come to find out that Megan and Abby didn't exist, that they were made up, and that the pictures that they were sending to Neve were like stock photos and things that you could find out on the internet. And he started doing some research because it was one of those things where the strings just weren't connecting, and so he started doing some research on it. So anyway, he made a documentary about his experience back in 2010. It won like a bunch of awards. It cost him like $35,000 to make the movie. He made it, box office was over $3.5 million.
Wow.
Was the take. So I mean, it's quite the turnaround. But yeah, so he went through all of this. He made this movie. He made a documentary. You can still watch the movie, by the way. I believe it's for rental at most every streaming service. You can look it up online. But back in 2012 or 2013, he started a TV show on MTV, which immediately kind of means it's a little sensationalized at time because it's MTV and they want the clicks. They want to get people in to watch and everything. But it's interesting to me from the standpoint of it's kind, for somebody who never, I mean, I got married in 1998. So when I started dating, the internet was just really starting to hit its peak, starting to get some, not its peak, but it was really starting to get some motion behind it. And, we were still using dial-up modem. So, you didn't have phones with apps, and there wasn't a Tinder, and there wasn't all these other things. And so for somebody who's never gone through that, it's kind of what I could be, Jerry. I make no promises. But it's kind of interesting to me to see some of the things that people do to try and meet other people, as far as dating apps and how they're going out on the internet, all these websites and things. And it also interesting to me, some folks are just, they're so desperate for somebody else to be in their life that they're willing to accept scraps. And so you watch the train wrecks of these people and what they're doing and how they're going about it. But then you also find that there are some people who are sincerely trying to use these means, but they're not good at video chatting and they're not good at doing some of these other things. And so they just don't do it, or they're nervous to do it. And, some real love stories have come out of this show. And so it's like 80-20. It's 80% train wrecks. I'll be honest with you. And so it's kind of interesting from that standpoint. But yeah, it's been a consistent show for about 8 years. The original co-host, his name was Max Joseph. That's Neve's best friend. Max is also a movie director, so he left the show, and now he's got Cammie Crawford, who I believe was a model as well. But it's kind of interesting, the difference in the two co-hosts. She's been on for like 2 seasons, maybe 3, as the co-host. She is far more blunt than Max would ever be. She calls people out on their crap, and I absolutely just love it because, she's like, just admit it. You're a liar. You're screwing with this person because you're a jerk. She says other words that, but yeah, it's just kind of interesting. And so not only is it that, but it's reality TV, which I don't really typically get into, but it is done in a documentary style. And there is a little bit of investigation that goes on, and it's kind of interesting. Because a lot of the apps and things I think he's using, from what I can tell, are just free apps that you can get on Google, and he's doing reverse image searches, and he's going to like yellowpages.com. I think the point of that was because this was the stuff that he did when he was researching his catfish, and he wanted to be able to show people that, hey, anybody who's in this situation can do this. If you think you're being catfished, there's ways for you to find this out on your own instead of allowing you to get your heart drugged through the mud and get yourself emotionally beat up, right? So, but yeah, so he does that, and it's kind of interesting to watch these investigations happen, especially when it's somebody that they've run across before, because there's been a few episodes like that where they're like, oh, this is so-and-so's calling card. I bet you that they're involved in this. This has got to be, like, I watched one yesterday where it was a guy up in Wyoming, I believe it was. The Wyoming or Montana, either way, there's not a lot of people and it's really cold. And they were up there. They were up there.
Sounds like my house. Thank you.
Right?
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
But yeah, he was up there, and they ran into one of the people that works at the hotel they were staying at, and she's like, "Oh, are you here to talk about so and so?" And they're like, no. And then all of a sudden, everything that they had gone through in the episode started spinning through their mind, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're here to talk to what's his name?" And he lives like 3 blocks away, and yeah, it was this other guy who'd been on the show before and catfished somebody before, and now here he is catfishing somebody again. And so they caught him twice. So it's just to me, it's kind of interesting to see, because I always personally like to see shows that show how people tick, what makes people react the way they do, and why they do the things they do, and why they treat people the way they treat people, and and all these type of things. And so there's really some really cool, almost it's pseudo sociology, really, in Catfish. I mean, I won't call it a sociology experiment, but it's pseudo sociology and how people, how sociological groups work. And so to me, that's kind of interesting. But not only that, you can watch us on Hulu or the MTV app right now. You can catch most of it. But then it's also spawned a couple other shows on MTV. They spawned a UK version of Catfish with 2 different hosts, and trying to do the same thing. But I think that only went for 1, maybe 2 seasons. And now they've got like a couple other shows that they're trying to push out that are similar in nature, but they're not Catfish. There's one that's like, I have a secret lover or something like that, or I don't know. It seems like a Jerry Springer episode, so I haven't watched any of that. But I mean, not that Catfish wouldn't be a Jerry Springer episode, but that's not the point. But yeah, so this is one of those shows that I like to watch. It's it's something I could watch while I'm writing something, I'm typing, I'm doing some other form of work. It doesn't require me to have hard, fast attention to it, where I have to know exactly what's going on. You can walk away from Catfish for about 10 minutes and come back and go, oh, that's what happened. Okay, we're good. Trust me, I did that this afternoon, so it totally works. But
that's like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. You can literally watch the last 30 minutes of the entire season and you're fine.
Yeah, you could probably watch about the last 15 minutes of one of the Catfish episodes and catch everything, because they go back through and they're always recapping, throughout the entirety of the episode.
I hate shows like that where it's like where they show you the last 5 minutes that they just showed you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Of the 237 episodes, how many have you seen? Swag.
Out of the Catfish episodes?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Probably. I hadn't watched it for a little bit, so I'd probably say 150.
Okay, so you're pretty committed.
That is committed.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen quite a few of it, and in the last couple of days, I've had some extra time on my hands where I could sit in front of a television and or a computer screen while I was doing other things. So I got caught back up on it a little bit and watching season 7 and 8 of it. But yeah.
Did they did they cover the Manti-Teo, the linebacker from Notre Dame?
I don't know if they did or not. I'd have to look that up because typically the only stories that they cover is when somebody reaches out to them and says, "Hey, like if Bob, I thought you were catfishing me," I'd write Jeff if he was Neve and be like, "Hey, I got this, I got this guy that I'm interested in. His name is Bob, and but he won't video chat me, or his Facebook page looks fishy or something or whatever." And and I need answers. Somebody tell me why Bob won't call me.
Well, that was the most famous one I ever heard of. That poor guy. He was a star linebacker. But and as that whole story unraveled, you're like, dude, how did you believe this shit for 3 years and never meet this woman? What?
Right. Never question it.
My God. Yeah. So I felt bad for the guy, but he went on to have a decent NFL career. It didn't hold him back.
Yeah, Jerry's got an interesting comment on there in the comment section. Right there. It baffles me that people get catfish so often. Our only answer is to develop tons of Snapchat filters. He's absolutely right, because all these people, a lot of the pictures that you see in catfish are people who are they're so filtered. Like, and I'm not trying to fat shame anybody when I say this, because I'm not exactly a thin man over here. But one of the people that was catfishing this guy down in Arkansas, she was a pretty hefty lady, but she had filtered her face and artificial intelligence trimmed it, or whatever you do with the apps, to make her face seem skinnier and make herself feel and appear sexier, it was almost like she had modeled her face after Angelina Jolie to some degree.
Yeah.
And
there were some filters on, I think, TikTok, I don't know, a bit ago, but it was like they were calling it a catfish filter. I mean, it made you really good looking.
Yeah.
I mean, even good looking people, it made them even better looking.
Yeah.
It was like
ugly schlubs like me made it passable,
Right. I think you're beautiful.
What does I never thought that. What does catfish mean? What is that? Why is catfish the name of duping somebody into a relationship and money in that?
I don't know the exact reason, but I'll tell you why I think it is. Because when you're fishing out in the river or something, you think you have something else, and it puts up a fight, and and so you think you have some other type of fish. You pull it up, and you're like, nope, it's a catfish. It's not the one you want to eat, so you throw it back because they're a bottom feeder.
Yeah. Okay.
But
that makes sense.
Tastes really good. I'll point that out.
So, I don't think if you fry it, I think people eat it fried. But all right, cool, awesome.
Yeah,
and I think that was a great catfish explanation as well. All right,
yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, I dig it too. All right, up next is Suits. Have you guys watched Suits? Have you guys watched Suits?
Ironically, no.
I know Bob the Dude has not watched Suits. So Suits is a TV show that ran from 2011 to 2019. It is a legal drama. Its most notoriety comes from
Did not know that.
Two things. One is one of the stars is a little known princess named Meghan Markle, who starred in 108 of the 134 episodes, leaving a year or so shy of the end of the series because she found a prince and became a princess. And I think that kind of her life just changed a bit. So Suits also, interestingly enough, through the pandemic and of recent, has surged in popularity. Like, people are suddenly discovering Suits and watching Suits, and it even made a joke promo from Saturday Night Live a couple episodes ago. What were you doing all summer? Oh, I was watching Suits. Yeah, it was like so much to the fact that they're actually talking about potentially bringing it back.
Oh, wow.
And so, I don't know that a lot of these folks have done a lot since the show ended, because the show ended like just as the pandemic was starting, right? And then you have the pandemic, and then now you have the strike and all that kind of stuff. So some have, some haven't. But so it is the, how do I sum this up? So Suits it's a story of it's a legal drama. It takes place in New York City at a Pearson Hardin law firm that only hires Harvard graduates, and the hotshot cool lawyer is Harvey Specter, played by Gabriel Macht, and he has to bring on a new associate. So they're interviewing new hotshot, people just out of Harvard, and Mike Ross, Patrick J. Adams, is in the middle of a drug deal, and he's escaping. It's a sting operation, and he's running, and he escapes, and he of course runs right into where they're doing the interviews for Harvey's new law associate. He walks in, his briefcase opens up, pounds of pot just fall onto the floor as he escapes. So now we know, and we're learning that Mike Ross is, it's serendipitous that they've met. Mike Ross has a memory like no one else's. And so basically, he's been biding time, making money, taking the LSATs for people. He's taken the bar. He's a genius. If he reads anything one time, it is locked in his memory forever. So he impresses Harvey Specter by handing him the law book and saying, pick anything. He picks anything, and he just starts reciting everything you can from a legal point of view. So Harvey Specter decides, you know what? I'll be damned. I don't need someone who actually has a law degree to be a lawyer and work in my firm. I'm going to secretly hire this drug dealer who's the most brilliant person in the world to be my associate. So that becomes the secret. He hires him, and now he's an associate at a law firm with no law degree. And everyone thinks he went to Harvard. And, so they have to keep that secret. And as things unfold, it gets a little crazy. Now, there's 8 seasons of Suits. I've held off kind of talking about it, but I'm deep into season 6. So I've not completed the series, but the cast at the end of late season 6, 7, with Meghan Markle leaving, other people leave, it's going to start to radically change. So I think this was a good point to say Suits is the greatest show in the world, and you should absolutely watch Suits. And what I mean by greatest show in the world, I don't mean it's better than Sopranos, and I don't mean it's better than Breaking Bad, but I tell you, it's the first time in a long time I can remember character names of a show. Okay. I love watching Suits. It is just an enjoyable weekly drama. Things, the relationships evolve and intertwine week to week. In the first couple of seasons, the episodes start, everything's solved within the hour type thing. They start to extend some of the storylines out when you get into season 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the characters grow, that kind of grows. It's just enjoyable. It's and in this day and age, for a show that was made in 2011 to 2019, you'll understand what I mean in a second, is it ends and you want to keep going. You want to watch the next one, right? But this was this was probably on the next week. I think this was on the USA channel. I'm watching it on Netflix right now, by the way. Language in this, so I don't know what it was originally on. I feel like it was on the USA channel, but it was
USA.
It has like strong language on it. They go, yeah, he was a pussy, all that kind of stuff. And it's great dialogue. One of the things between the lawyers is always quoting movies. There's a lot of A Few Good Men things where they'll quote the hell out of A Few Good Men. It's just very snappy dialogue, great relationships, and every character is really, really great. Harvey Specter is great. I think Meghan Markle is great. She plays a paralegal who then goes to law school. She works at the firm. She falls in love with Mike Ross. Jessica Pearson is played by Gina Torres. She's like the woman who, it's her firm, it's her law firm. She's Pearson of Pearson Hardin, later Pearson. Yeah, anyway. And so she's just this badass woman, attorney, takes no shit, gets the job done. Amazing. Love her. She's great. There's this Rick Hoffman plays Louis Litt, who's kind of the humorous character, but also like the nemesis. Him and Harvey don't get along. They've always knocked out along since going to school together. You know, then the greatest character on the show is played by Sarah Rafferty. She plays Donna, who's Harvey Specter is just a secretary. And she's amazing. And she's the greatest character on the show. And it's just wonderful. There's two funny tropes that I found in Suits. The two funny tropes that happen every episode are somebody goes, "Oh, really?" And then Tim would go, "Oh my God, you're telling me that Bob's dog ate the like you just somehow they just know everything clicks fast with everyone. It was just you only have to say a little, and it's like, oh yeah, you got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Oh my God, he's over the thing, and then they did that, and they did, it's just they know everything just based on very little information. And then the other trope is where we'll be talking, and Bob, you'll go like, yeah, the puppy is peeing all over the place. And I'll go, oh my God, I just solved the case based on what you said. You made me think of something else.
Yeah.
And then every episode. It's great. And so, yeah, I mean, it does get a little crazy when you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute. They're basically breaking the law the entire time because it's illegal to have an associate who's acting as an attorney that people think is an attorney, who is not only not an attorney, he never even went to law school, right? And, so there's interesting dynamics with that. I guess that's kind of what makes it a little interesting going through it all. But I love the show. I keep loving it. It's just super fun to watch. Let's see if anyone. Suits is awesome. Reminds me of House, but in a courtroom instead of a hospital. Okay.
It's never lupus.
But it's like, it's like in Suits, they come up with everything. It's like, it would probably drive me crazy to be a lawyer when they're like, how can we solve this? There's never been a precedent. Mike, get me a precedent. I don't have I got to go to court in an hour. If you don't come up, and then Mike say, well, I came up with Phillips versus Michigan in 1972. They did this. And it was like out of nowhere, you know what I mean? It's like, and they always kind of win and all that kind of stuff. And then Gary Cole plays a reoccurring character, from Office Space and a million other things. He's amazing. There's just a lot of great Neil McDonough, maybe plays Sean Cahill, who's in a lot of episodes. There's just a million great people in this that come and go. But there's 134 episodes. They're like 43-minute episodes because it's, the old hour drama. But so it like goes to commercial, but then comes right back, which I actually love. It's like, there's something really satisfying.
You mean having a commercial?
Well, no, about, how like when in the TV shows, network shows, they kind of go dark, they go black for a second, they fade to black.
Yeah.
And they go to the commercials,
break and then come back. Yeah.
Right. So those commercial breaks are still there, but it'll kind of go black, but then immediately you're back.
Oh,
then
right back into the episode.
So it's very satisfying. There's something very, very satisfying.
I don't have to watch that hemorrhoid commercial.
But let's see, what else can I tell you about this? Is
Meghan Markle naked in it ever?
No, but there's a lot of kissing, and so every time she makes out with Mike Ross, character, I'm like, he's kissing a princess.
Harry would not want to watch that show, is what you're saying.
I'm sure he watched it. That's probably was all like, I gotta get me some Meghan Markle. So
Oh
it's
yeah, I
probably,
guess you're right. That's
I must meet
yeah.
her.
But yeah, I think I would definitely check it out. You'll know right away if you're into it or not. But I haven't met anyone who doesn't like Suits. You know, it's like one of those shows. It's just like, I don't know how you couldn't like this show. It's just enjoyable. It's the greatest. Just what is it? Just candy. What's the word for it? Not
Eye candy?
not eye candy for a TV show. But what would it be like? Just whatever the equivalent of eye candy is for a
a
TV show.
frothy concoction. Just
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
thing.
So I highly recommend.
All right, I may watch that now.
Yeah, it's fun.
My son watches it all the time. He absolutely loves it. So
yeah, you should watch it too. You'll enjoy it too. It's snappy dialogue, great characters, great interaction between the characters. It's got everything, and it's enjoyable. And you can, the life is so crazy these days, right? With everything, it's just like you can just kind of, it's a good escape. I think that's what I was trying to say.
there you go.
Earlier.
I like that. Yeah.
All right. So go see. I give it 5 tomato sauce jars.
All right. The
all
absence of our pal Sal.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I guess that's it. A fabulous episode. Thanks everyone for tuning in, listening, chatting along. Tim, remind everyone of your awesome podcast.
Hi, guys. I'm Tim from the FSF Podcast. You can find everything about us on our website, www.fsfpopcast. But you can also find us on Twitter, and because I refuse to call it the one single letter, it is definitely still Twitter, and Threads and Instagram. It's all at FSF Podcast, and of course our YouTube channel. But we're a weekly interview show, and we do silly conversations on Monday nights at 7:00. Come join us, have some fun. It'll be a great time.
All right,
Awesome.
Tim. Good meeting you.
Bob.
So where am I going to be? Friday night, Captain Joe's sold out in Whitmore Lake. The Sal and Bob Show. We have a huge cast out there this time. We have 7 comedians. We're all going to do 47 seconds apiece.
Somebody said, I was going to this thing. They're like, you have 2 hours. We thought we'd give everyone 3 minutes. I'm like, you're thinking of having 40 people?
Yeah. They do that out in Ann Arbor. They do that. Yeah. And then where am I after that? I'm at the Comedy Room the following week. And check out the Sal and Bob Show, ranked number 25 by Good Pods. Is that what the name of that ranking thing is?
Yeah. Number 25. You're the awesomeness.
Yeah.
And hey, everyone, check out Classic Conversations.
You've had some good guests lately.
Yeah, always. Always.
Yeah,
He has a couple that I'm horribly jealous that he got before I could. So
who's that?
Eric Roberts.
Oh, yeah.
Horribly jealous.
That was a get, my man.
Horribly jealous, Jeffrey.
Well, you all right, we'll talk after. And that has been another has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow the Jeff DeWaskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff DeWaskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us, listen to our podcasts, Classic Conversations, and the Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.